Now we've got fully functional menus, but they could still stand to look quite a bit nicer. First thing I think I'll do to this main menu scene is I'll add a new label. We'll just call it, say, title label. And just say my awesome Godot game, or something else if you've come up with a name for your game by now. Awesome Godot Sandbox. And I'll add a label settings to it so I can change the font size. Let's change it to 50, maybe even a little bigger, 60. And then I'll center it to the top center. In fact, maybe bring it up from the center. There we go, my awesome Godot Sandbox. And I might make the color of this a yellow color. It's bright yellow for my heading of my game. And all the rest of the style settings can be controlled through a theme. If I click back on my main menu node, you'll see here there's the option theme, and I can add a new theme to that, and a whole bunch of stuff pops up down at this bottom panel. It shows me what a button looks like in my current theme, and what all these other input fields like tabs and trees and checkboxes look like in my current theme. And then over on this side, there's a bunch of properties that I can set on each of these things. So, for example, if I were to hit this I control picker, and then click on button, I get all the different styles that I can set on a button. I can change the font color. Let's just do that now, actually. So to change any of these settings, I have to click this plus to override the setting. And then I can I'll change this one to yellow as well. And now all of my button text color has become yellow. And the other one that's quite useful to change is over here in this other colored icon, is all of the sort of styles of the background of things. You can see it's got different styles for focus and hover and pressed and so on. I'll just style the normal one for now. I'll click plus on that one, and it says that it's empty, so I have to add a new style box for the background of something. That's change the background color of my buttons. But you can see it's also taken away all the default settings. I can click on style box that I just created, style box flat, and well, it hasn't got any rounded corners anymore. It's turned it to this weird awkward background color. So rather than just click the plus, what I'm going to do instead is just remove that item that I added and right click on the existing style box, choose copy, and then when I click the plus, I'll be able to right click in this empty box and choose paste as unique. And I'll get a copy of the existing style, so I can click on that style box flat, and it gives me exactly my button as it's styled right now. It's already got its rounded corners, and it's got that background color that it comes with to start with, and then we can just change the background color. Let's have it so that it's not see-through anymore, and then just kind of change it to green, like there somewhere, green buttons. So I'll say I'm happy enough with these colors, but you'll notice that when I hover over one of these example buttons, it changes to a different style, because as I've pointed out, we've got one style for normal, but we've got a different style for hover. And it could be really frustrating to go and change the styles for hover and focus and pressed and disabled and everything. So fortunately, I can also copy this style box that I've just made. Right click, choose copy, then go up to the hover style. I have to make sure that I've added an empty new box so I can override the hover style. Then right click on that one and choose paste as unique. The reason I'm choosing paste as unique rather than paste is so that I can edit these independently of each other if I wanted to. So I can click on the hover style. Maybe I want to make this like ever so slightly brighter, perhaps, when it's being hovered over. And then that should change it for the hover style and not for the normal style. So you can see when I'm hovering over my test button, it gets ever so slightly brighter. You'll notice that the font is handled separately. The font was back over here in this color font section. So if I wanted the font to be the same for hover, then I'd have to go into the color section, font hover color, click the plus, and then just choose my yellow color, like that. So now we've got pretty similar colors for hover and for normal. The other one you'll want to change is the pressed style when I click on the button, because that goes back to being grey at the moment as well. And again, I can just copy one of these existing ones and paste it into pressed. Click my plus, right click and paste as unique so that it can be separate for pressed as well. And let's do that for the color. We've got font pressed color. This one here. Let's turn this into yellow. There we go. So now when I press the button, it also has my green color on it. What I suggest you do not change is the focus style. So focus, if I just click one of these buttons here and then navigate around with tab, you can see focus adds that blue border around the edge of all of the buttons. Now, focus is something that we even have in web pages and stuff, and often it gets neglected a little bit because you don't really see that border show up unless you're navigating with the keyboard instead of with a mouse. So people think, well, I don't really need to care much about styling this, whoever navigates with a keyboard. But it's actually much more important in games because you might be releasing this game to a platform that lets you use controllers, console controllers like Xbox or PlayStation, or you just want to allow someone to plug in their controller to their computer. And the controller is a lot like navigating with a keyboard. So anytime you're navigating around the buttons using a controller, you'll see this focus style show up. And so it's pretty important that that one doesn't look exactly the same as all the other styles. You still want to be able to see the focus style. You can still change it, but just keep in mind it needs to be quite obvious that the button has been focused on, otherwise people can't tell what they're about to click in your game. Godot's focus style is actually quite clever. If I just quickly copy the existing focus style and then paste it as unique so we can see what's in there, you'll see what it's done is it's unticked this box that says Draw Center, and then it's added a border around the outside of the focus style. So that's how it can get the border around the button but still keeps the rest of it green like we already had. Speaking of borders, one cool thing that we can do to these buttons, if I go to my normal box style, is I can add a border width just to the bottom of them. Let's say 8 pixels of border. You can see it's not a very nice color, so I'll open the border section so I can change the color. And we'll make that kind of a green color as well, but we'll make it darker than my normal bit of my button. And the idea is that this should look something like a 3D button, and it looks fairly close except that the text hasn't moved. So I also want to go down to this section that says Content Margins and move the text up a little bit by adding more to the bottom margin. So I've added 8 pixels of border. These are all 4, so I'm going to add 12 pixels to the bottom, and then it centers my text again, and it looks kind of like I've got 3D buttons because there's a bit of shadow on the bottom border. Then what I want to be able to do is change the pressed style. Actually, let's just copy my new normal style and paste it into hover. Go paste as unique, and then just make that a little bit brighter again like we had. And then paste into pressed as well. Paste as unique, so that our style is the same for all 3 of those. And then in the pressed version of the style, I'll remove that border. So we'll set that back to 0. Then you'll see it doesn't really look particularly nice because the button hasn't gone down, it's just stayed where it is. So the trick with this one is to add border to the top of 8 pixels, and then change this border color to just be completely see-through, completely transparent. And now it's clipped off the top of the border, and just like I did when we wanted it to look like a 3D button, I'll set the bottom margin back to 4, and I'll set the top margin to 12 this time, and it will look like the button's gone down when I click it. In fact, this preview looks terrible, but I do know that this does work in the game. Let's play the game. Let's run this, and we'll see what it looks like. See, here's my 3 buttons. They change color ever so slightly when I hover over them, and when I click one, you'll see it gets pressed down, because what's really happening is I'm removing the bottom border, I'm pushing the margin of the text down a little bit, and it's got a invisible border at the top, which is what makes the button looks like it's going down a little bit. I think the only other thing that I'll change will be the font. In this text property, I could change the font of just the buttons. I could add a new font file to it, and then all my buttons would have their font updated. But for font, I can also just go to the main menu where I've got my theme section, and you see I can choose a default font that will be used for all of the elements inside this main menu node. And for this, I've just chosen this Google font. It's got an open font license, so it's called Lobster. I'll add that into our assets folder and drag it into my Godot assets folder. I should see that come up here. Lobster font, Lobster regular, and I'll drag that into the default font field, and then everything in the game becomes Lobster font. It looks like it's awkwardly changed the size of some of my buttons, so let's just snap those ones. If I hold down Control while I drag, it will snap to the position of my other buttons, and then this one I can just change the text to be centered. Let's see, we've got label settings. Here we go, horizontal alignment, center, and then that looks nice as well. So that looks pretty nice for the font. And then I might add a background color. One way to change the background color is in project settings. I can change that background gray color to a different color by going down to rendering environment and then just selecting a different color here. That will change the default background color of all of the levels across my entire game, which you might not want. So the other thing we can do is just add a big square panel behind everything that we can color in with its own style box. So I'll click on the plus, I'll create a panel, and then we're going to anchor that so it's this one here, full rect, so it covers the entire screen. Right now it's in front of everything, but if I drag it to be the first item in my main menu node, then it will be behind everything. And then I can style this panel. I could try to use this toggle picker and click on the background, and I might get lucky and select a panel, but it's a little bit annoying. So I can also click this plus here, and I can add styles to any of the different types of nodes in my tree, including the panel node. Click add type, and then all these style options become styles for all the panels in my game. So I'll go to the background color option of my panel, and I'll add a new style box to this one. And for this one, I don't think I will use style box flat. I'm going to use style box texture, so that this way we can add textured backgrounds and things to this panel. You've used textures before. We could add a texture in here. We could use image texture just by dragging on any image that you like. The one that I'm going to use is going to be this gradient texture, 2D. And then if I click that, I can change this from a linear gradient into a radial gradient by changing the fill type from linear to radial. And then I don't want that in the top corner, I want it in the middle, which I can do by setting this exactly to 0.5, 0.5. And then when I click on the gradient, I can change this first color. Click that. I'll use this eyedrop picker and make that kind of the same green as my buttons. Oh, I probably want the middle color to be different so that my buttons show up. Then I'll click on the last color stop in the gradient, and I'll change this color for the last color stop. Maybe that one can be the green of my buttons. There, that looks like a reasonable background for my game. It's done with a gradient 2D. And I think we're done with this one. We've got our awesome Godot Sandbox introduction. The buttons kind of have this nice clicking effect when I click on them, and they should have a focus style as well, so if I use the keyboard to navigate through them, then they'll just go through them all in order. If you wanted to keep going with this, you could obviously do the same thing for your end game scene and for your pause menu and anything else, but that's how you use themes in Godot, and that'll be this video done.